Okay, if you let me do the share, I can put this on the screen, Lou.
Rabbi, first, Pirkei Avos, Megillah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Lou. Yeah, if I could share the screen, that would be good for everybody.
Okay, you can do that now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're in Perek Gimel, Megillah. Let's start from the first pasuk again. Yeah, who would like to read? Any volunteers?
I do. You want to read, right?
No, I'm happy to listen.
Okay. Achar hadibarim ha'ela, Gidal hamelech Achashverosh, es Haman ben Hamdasa David Vayenas Ehu Vayasem es Hiso Me'al Kol Hasarim Asher Ito. So after these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, the son of Hamdasa, the Agagite, and he sat on his throne.
Or advanced him.
Pardon?
He advanced him. I've got here.
Yeah, like he promoted him, right?
Yeah, same thing.
He was one of the part of the entourage of Achashverosh, but he didn't have a prominent position. But now he's been given the advancement, the promotion to a prominent position more than anybody else. Now, the Megillah doesn't give us any reason why that was, right? For what reason? Usually people don't get picked to be advanced unless there's a reason to do it. We can wonder why that was. What was the cause of Haman's advancement to such prominence?
Oh, Va'asis Ehu means he placed his seat above on the throne above all the princes that were there.
Right.
I've got a note here saying that the king promoted right. Hashem caused Haman to be raised to power in order to make his eventual fall greater. The Holy One, blessed be he, said, should Haman be slain when he goes down to stop the building of the temple, no one will know that who he was. Let him therefore become great and famous and afterwards be hanged.
Mm-hmm.
Trash.
Okay. Very good.
I think
Now, Rashi says, Achar devar me'ela, Shenivras refuah zu lios teshul Yisrael. This is the making of the refuah that it should be the teshua for Yisrael. Right? It's going to be the salvation. This is the beginning of the salvation of Yisrael. Achar devar me'ela. So that was mentioned in the Meforshim here. That's after 5 years. Ibn Ezra mentions the 5 years, right? It took 5 years from the time of, I guess, the beginning from the time of Achashverosh's third year, where he made the Mishna. Another 5 years that Haman was now in place, and now the story can really unfold. Up till now, it's basically just been background. right? Background of the laying the infrastructure of how things are going to be set up in order that Klal Yisrael can be eventually the end goal, right? The end goal of everything that's happening here in the Megillah is that we should be able to return back to Yerushalayim to rebuild the base of Midrash, which actually had been started beforehand, but had been stopped. So now the goal has to come to an end, and Klal Yisrael has to be worthy of being able to return in a way that the base of Midrash will be rebuilt.
So how long was Esther queen at this time?
I would say it's been 5 years now. That's also apparently that's 5 years because Yachad Devar Me'ela, that was after the plot that was going on the previous last pasuk, right? That the plot was foiled that through the council of Mordechai through the Queen Esther, and that took place 5 years before.
Okay, so that means that the incident, the meal that started this all had to be at least 6 years earlier.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Now, why was Haman referred to as an Agagi? Right, Agagi. What is this? What is this first people, the Agagites? Why is he referred to as an Agagite?
Gog, the king of the Amalekites that Shaul failed to kill.
Right. So he was named after the king. That was his. It wasn't referred to as being a Molech, but it was more specifically coming from because that was the only one who was left, right? Right.
Right.
So there was no real Amalek left. It was more now specifically coming from the family of the Agagite. Right. Very good. Okay.
So you're saying that Haman was the only remaining descendant of Amalek.
Not that Haman himself, but they all stemmed through the king Aga, right? He was the only one left.
Oh,
That Shaul spared. So then all the Amaleks that came forth since that time were from his progeny.
mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting phenomena that we associate Haman with Agag and therefore with Amalek, when, according to my understanding of the Midrash, Haman had relations with a woman who was in the prison. Whether she was a guard or a fellow prisoner or a server, it was a fleeting relationship. It wasn't something where he really knew her at all, and he was then killed. So it wasn't, he had no role in raising the offspring. So
Right.
where do we don't see that there's a Masorah Lavdil being handed down, an Amalekite Masorah being handed down. So,
Right.
why is it we would think that it's irrelevant, that Amalek is not at this point really a hereditary position as much as it's a position that develops with whoever, is chosen to bear the mantle.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, where is that? To really understand that, I have to go back to that Misa with Shoal. One second. See here. Let's see. One second. One second. Told them poor. Um, Darius Haman. Daniel. Darius. All right, we'll have to see about that. David. One second. Oops. Just want to see if it records what happened here a little bit. Oh, Shalom. Sure. Okay, one second here. No, we'll have to look into it. We'll have to see what the actual lineage is. I don't see it clearly here in the Sefer right now. All right, let's leave that on the side for time.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, let's continue on. I'll see if I can find anything about it. If I do, I'll let you know. Okay,
All right, I put a question mark next to the word Agagi.
right, okay.
Okay, so Bet, should I go on?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
V'chol avdei hamelech asher b'sha'ar hamelech korim umish tachavim v'haman ki chen tziva lo hamelech u'mordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachaveh. And all of the servants of the king that were in the gate of the king bowed and prostrated to Haman, just as the king commanded them. And Mordecai did not bow and prostrate.
Okay. So, yeah, so this point that he didn't bow, so there are obvious reasons why, I know there's several reasons why he didn't bow. Probably have there in your reflection some different reasons listed.
Why
won't he bow? Let's see.
He held an idol and in his bosom. When people prostrated to him, they would be kneeling to the idol.
Right.
Mordecai refused to kneel to Haman and refused to bow to his God. He would not even give a short formal bow, as did other patricians, since Haman made it obvious that any obeisance to him was also obeisance to his God.
Right.
Mordecai had another reason for not paying homage to Haman. In the year 3393, the second year of Ahasuerus' reign, an Indian province rebelled against the Persian Empire, and the king sent 12,000 troops to put down the rebellion. The two generals leading these troops were Mordecai and Haman. Each led 6,000 troops and was given provisions for 3 years. Mordecai and his troops swung around and attacked from the east, while Haman attacked directly from the west. Haman squandered his provisions, and at the end of the first year of the campaign, had run out of supplies. He went to Mordecai and asked him for help. Mordecai explained that if he gave away provisions, he and his own troops would be short. When Haman's troops began to feel hunger and threatened to rebel, Haman returned to Mordecai and pleaded for help. Finally, Mordecai agreed, but on condition Haman would have to serve him as a slave 1 day a week. Without any other choice, Haman had to agree. Since there was no paper to be found on the battlefield, Mordecai wrote out a contract to this effect on his jambo, which is the armor worn over the feet in battle. Because of Haman's commitment, Mordecai felt no compulsion to bow to him. He made a practice of wearing his jambo, and when Haman passed by, he would give a knowing glance at it. Haman understood and would seethe with frustration.
So this again, this took place in the what year of the Ahasuerus' rule it mentioned?
Second year.
Second year. Okay, very good. So you see already at the from the time of the second year. Now this happened already before the Mishna of Ahasuerus, right? The Mishna took place in the third year.
Uh-huh.
So you see, HaKadosh Baruch is already making things happen here, even before there was a gezerah. Even because if you analyze from the point of view that the gezerah of Haman and Achashverosh was as a result of us going to the Mishna, right, and getting Hana from the Mishna. I mean, there are other explanations as well, but that's the most mainstream explanation. But there are other explanations. That's why I want to make a point here, because the events that are occurring there a year before the Mishna, right, are already laying the groundwork, the framework, the possibilities for the eventual salvation of Klal Yisrael. And here, I mean, even though it looks like it's and there are those there commentators explain that Mordecai was very seriously criticized, that he was, by not bowing to Haman, he's placing him and himself personally, and also the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael, in danger, and he's putting them at risk, right, by not obeying the royal commands of Achashverosh, the king, that he said everyone has to bow to him. But it was already, Kadosh Baruch was making it impossible, right? It was now impossible that Mordecai should bow to Haman from two different points of view. One, that he's making himself, Rashi says clearly he made himself into a god, right? And therefore, therefore Mordecai, Rashi says this before, therefore Mordecai would not bow or even show any type of physical homage to Haman. And one, from the fact that he's Avodah Zarah, and number two, because he's his slave. He's a slave, right? And obviously the master doesn't bow to the slave.
You know, the terminology is that of Eleno, Korim u'mishtachavim.
Very good. They make a point. They make a point that these expressions, right? These expressions were in Lashon Asid, if I'm not mistaken. They make a point about that.
Uh-huh.
Does that excuse me?
I don't understand what you just said. Lashon what?
Asid, and it's in the future tense.
Uh-huh.
Right. The expression was, right. Lo yichrav, lo yishtachaved. I think the yud there makes it into a future tense, right?
Right.
So the Meforshim get asked this question: why is it mentioned in the future tense? And when we say in Aleinu, so our lashon here is
That is, I have a comment in my sefer here. It says the future tense signifies a decision not to bow down under any circumstances, rather than a decision taken for a particular occasion.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense. If he's not going to do it now, he's certainly, and it says he's not going to do it in the future, then he'll never do it.
Right. Yeah. He was like maybe a vow, and if he was a Avodah Zarah, if he was a slave, definitely couldn't do it. He couldn't do that on many counts. Right, but in our Elenu that you mentioned, Mayor, we also had umodim, right?
Right.
We had the word modim. Here the pasuk didn't use that expression as well, not modim, because modim is more of a modim. I think is more of a mental activity rather than korim u'mishtachavim. So those are physical activities, where modim could be either through verbal acknowledgement, or it could be through simply belief, meaning in understanding things and thanking Kadosh Baruch Hu, acknowledging Kadosh Baruch Hu in our beliefs, in our thoughts. Okay. Um, Good. Let's continue on. So that's very important. That's important that in trying to analyze what the reasons were for the Gezerah of Haman and Achashverosh. So it could be that since this was taking place, this element that Mordecai was not going to bow to Haman because he's his slave, this already took place before the Mishnah, which invites the possibility of there were more deeper reasons for the Gezerah of Achashverosh and Haman rather than just the Mishnah, right? Because they asked the question also, if it was just the Jews that were in Shushan that went to the Mishnah, right? They went to the Mishnah, so why did all the other Jews in the world have to suffer through a Gezerah?
Right.
So there are some that say that there was really because there was we shouldn't have bowed. There was a certain avodah zorah of Nebuchadnezzar, and we shouldn't have bowed. And there were those amongst us who bowed to that avodah zorah. So there was a gezerah based on that, which was probably more conclusive to all of Klal Yisrael than just the isolated Jews of Shushan going to that particular Mishnah. Okay, let's go on to the next pasuk. Pasuk.
Vayomeru Avdei Hamelech Asher B'Sha'ar Hamelech the Mordechai Madua Ata Over Ace Mitzvas Hamelech. And the servants of the king that were in the gate of the king said to Mordecai, why are you violating the commandment of the king?
So that's a pretty reason. That's a pretty reasonable question to ask, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're eagerly on the sidelines watching to see who's gonna win.
Right. The question is why does the Megillah have to include this pasuk? What do we gain by this pasuk?
Uh, well, my commentary says they were jealous.
Okay. What they were jealous of the fact that Mordecai was willing to stand up to Haman?
They were jealous because they said, Mordecai, you're acting like you're better than us.
Mm-hmm.
We're bowing down and you're not. So you're like better, you're acting better than us.
Right.
I would say that Mordecai knew or knows the true king, and Ahasuerus is not the true king, so he wouldn't bow down to him.
Right. So he's going to resist. I mean, I don't know if there's a problem about a Jew bowing down to a king, right? If it's not a act of homage of making the king into a Zorah, I don't know if there's an issur for a Jew to really bow down to a king. Let's say in this case, as Haman, he was wearing some type of an idol around his neck. So by bowing down to Haman, you're bowing down to the idol. So that would be forbidden. And let's say a king is simply wearing his clothes, his crown, he's wearing his royal shoes, his royal shirt, his royal underwear, but there's nothing in terms of avodah zorah, idol worship connected with his garments or anything like that. I'm not sure if there's anything forbidden for a Jew to bow down to a king as an act of submission, just in terms of him being the king. You see that the Yaakov Avinu bowed down to Esau,
No, that's true.
right?
I would think even further that that Mordecai could say, I'm not bowing to the idol, I'm bowing to Haman.
Well, if it's around his neck, it's a little bit unavoidable to separate the two. Right.
I've got an interesting note here.
Yeah, go ahead, Doris. Sure.
Mordecai lo yachara, but Mordecai would not bow down, would not. Why is this verse written in the future? Yachara, right? Is that right?
Right.
Literally, will bow, rather than the past tense, kore, bowed. The future tense signifies a decision not to bow under any circumstances, rather than a decision taken for a particular occasion. There's the Shah Bas Rabim. The Midrash Chatsis states that at the request of Esther, Ahasuerus himself freed Mordecai from the obligation of prostrating himself before Haman. It's a new one.
You go ahead.
Rab Yonasan Eberschutz infers this explanation from the verse itself. The words Ki Kain Sava Lo Hamelech, for this is what the king had commanded, applied to the end of the verse rather than the beginning. Read thus. This is what the king had commanded concerning him. Mordecai lo yacharei, that Mordecai should not bow down, etc. This also explains the use of the future tense, yacharei, should not bow. Did you get all that in?
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that makes sense. If it was a command from, if the reason why, again, the question is why is it written in future tense rather than past tense, or it is present tense? So this explanation answers that question. He said this is based on Rabbi Yonas Neibschitz.
Yeah.
That he said that it was actually a command of Ahasuerus through the request of Esther that Haman didn't, that Mordecai wouldn't have to bow down to Haman, and therefore the command of the king is really going on the last part of this pasuk where he's referring to he's not bowing down. Okay, yeah, that fits in. That's very good. Okay. So then that makes it a little bit more difficult than what was the question. The pasuk says like Amru Avdi Amelech Asher B'Shah Melech Ma'oritai Medua Atai Over Al Mitzvah Melech. Right. So how would the Rav Yonas and Eibschitz say explain this pasuk now? I mean, they didn't know the exception to command to exclude Mordecai from the command was not known by the people. Other people there in the courtyard.
Well, what are we reading? 3:1. Have you read 3:2 yet? Base yet?
Yes, we read 3:2.
All right, so I've got here then Baraim Umishtarchavim, would bow down and prostrate. Haman claimed divine powers for himself, therefore Mordecai wouldn't bow down. To make it manifest that the homage due to him was of an idolatrous character, he had this image fastened to his clothes. So whoever bowed down to him worshipped the idol at the same time. It says here in a bracket that it's interesting to note that wherever else it's Barim or Mishtachavim, bowing and prostrating, appear together. That's to appear together in the Bible. They always refer to bowing down to Hashem. Haman was not content with simple obeisance, bowing down anyway from his subjects. He insisted upon the kind of bowing and prostration together reserved for Hashem. Hence, the Midrash tells us he wore an image to enhance the idolatrous nature of the homage he desired. Or Haman, quite possibly though Mordecai would acknowledge Haman in some form, but this did not surprise Haman's vanity. As pointed out later in verse 5, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not obey or Mishtachaveh law, bow down and prostrate himself before Haman, he grew angry. He knew that Mordecai's refusal was religiously motivated. There was no point in punishing Mordecai alone. The whole Jewish people deserved punishment in Haman's eyes. And there's a few more paragraphs going on that. Quite a very long note.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Very good. Okay. Let's do one more pasuk. Let's see the next pasuk.
Vayihi be'amram ke'amram. Oh, I see. There's two different versions. Elav yom v'yom v'lo shema aleihem v'yagidu lahaman l'ir'os haya'amdu divrei Mordechai ki higid lahem asher hu Yehudi. Okay, so and it was I'm not sure what these two versions is, but it's the word is to speak. They spoke to him every day, and he did not listen to them. And they told Haman to see what he would do, and if the words of Mordecai, to see if the words of Mordecai would prevail, because he told them that he was a Jew.
Right. So now it's becoming. He told. So here in this pasuk it says that he v'amidu divrei Yudlahem shehu Yehudi. So now it's becoming a public forum here as to who is going to prevail. Is it going to be the Mordecai who, because of his religion, is not going to Haman, or is it going to be Haman because of his avodah zarah, his idol worship? Apparently it's becoming over here. One second. Yeah, right. So told him he was a Yehudi, which means to say, he said to him, it's us for him. Since he's a Jew, it's us for him to bow down. Right?
if if the king had given him permission not to, wouldn't have he? Besides which, Ashferes told me that I don't have to.
Yeah, that would be true. Apparently, right?
Haman would have known.
Yeah, that right.
But maybe that didn't work.
Excuse me?
Maybe that doesn't work then, that the king told him.
Yeah, well, okay, that's why I was wondering that the Jonas and Eibishitz will probably have to explain things in a way that will allow it to work. He probably has an explanation about that.
Mm.
According to him, he has to explain it, right? He has to explain it. 1 second here. Yeah, Yesh Lishoyo, Lama Nicholas Mordecai Atzmo, but Ibn Ezra asks, why did Mordecai bring himself into danger? Gam Hickness Kol Yisrael. Also, he's putting Klal Yisrael at risk. Right?
Mm.
I Roy Shid will Esther Katsrunu Me Sharamela. No Yichas. That's someone. It says, I see. He asked the question, why couldn't it, if in fact this was going to put him, Mordecai, in a state of sakana, and also Klal Yisrael putting him at risk, why couldn't Mordecai be asked from Esther to have him released from the shah of the king, of the melech? Because you can't leave if you're called to the courtyard of the king, you have to appear there. You have to be there and stay there because the king wants you there. You can't just not show up, right?
Mm.
All right. Okay, look, it's 10 to 10. So I'll tell you, maybe we'll go over this last point tomorrow. Make a note that we'll start from Pasuk Dalet tomorrow, Bli
Right. There's an interesting article in Mishpacha magazine in the Inyan insert about the Megillah, about the writing of it and some variations in the Megillah itself of the word, of the lettering and the wording and the types of cloth and all everything about it. It's very interesting. It's a short article, but in point form, very interesting. In the Inyan magazine of the Mishpacha magazine.
Of this last week, this last Shabbos.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We sometimes we get it from the neighbors.
Okay.
Comes
Oh, I
second.
think you can this time.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Roy. Have a good afternoon. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Okay. Likewise.
Okay, we'll start the Mishna Bruce here in a few moments, Mitzvah Shem.
Okay. Bye for now. Thank you. Bye.